bossy move. You want something done right? You have to hire someone you can push around. All caps.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Movie Mayhem. I'm Donnie Shields, and returning today, finally, just like Return of the King, Chase, Morgan Hulett, everybody.
Yay, I'm back for a day. No,
Okay.
it's great to be back on Movie Mayhem. I'm really excited for this one. It's good to be back for a little bit at least,
Yeah, and I mean, real quick, I guess we could start with something that's not movie related, because as people know that the fires are going on in Maui, over in Hawaii, not a lot of people realize that there's fires actually in Montana, which I did leak that you were on a fire. That's why you couldn't be here, that you were fighting fires and yes, doing what you do. Do you want to give anything like a shout out and tell people how bad some of it's been up there that people don't really know about on national news?
I don't want to get too political, but a lot of people are blaming climate change for what's going on with these fires and stuff. And Hawaii is a different story, and I'm not going to get into what happened there, but for Montana, I know it's unhealthy forest, period. You have a forest that has a lot of fuel, a lot of unhealthy trees and buggy trees. And when things are not taken care of, it becomes a mess, as you can probably imagine. And when we don't take care of it, then when a fire starts, it just rips through the whole valley. So a lot of these fires, they start from like thunderstorms or something, natural causing. But the thing is that it continues because it's so unhealthy. And then our Forest Service and the people who are supposed to be, taking care of our forests are doing nothing about it. And they use fire as an excuse to actually get stuff done. Because I can talk all day about this, Donnie, but pretty much it is unhealthy forest. We need to take care of our forest. We need to log it. We need to clean it up. I know there are a lot of people out there that disagree with that, but I'd rather see a forest logged than it burned. Because once it's burned, this timber up in Montana, when it burns, it's dead for a long, long time. In fact, you still see scars from the fires in 1910 up here. I mean, stuff is growing and whatnot, but once it burns, it's done for. It's not like California or the grasslands where it burns and then next year it looks like nothing happened. So take care of your forests. We need to do something about that. Something needs to happen, because the valley I live in, it's not if, it's when the whole thing burns and it's done. It's going to look like Hawaii, and we don't want that. So I'm a big advocate of that, just because I literally work in the woods. I see what happens, and yeah.
Well, it is important though to hear, because again, I don't think there's been 1 second covered to Montana fires that's been going on. Typically, California gets all the press for the fires when they get the fires and the droughts and stuff like that. And of course, Hawaii has been taking up the majority of the news cycle, which it should. But I haven't heard anything about Montana fires, so I thought this was a good time to educate the audience just a little bit about what was going on.
Yep, and we're going to the number one requested fire in the Northern Rockies, which is in Idaho right now, northern Idaho, the really skinny part of Idaho. So yeah, and that's I mean, that's the gist of what we need to do. Is we just need to take care of it, because even like Donnie, when you come out and visit, you will see the difference between something that's been taken care of and something that it hasn't, and it's night and day difference.
Yeah. No, but I do look forward to seeing it. So please keep it safe and just wait for me to get there before it burns completely down. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Speaking of firestorms, we could talk about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs actress, but we are not going to, because that could be a whole Captain Marvel situation all over again. Bad enough that apparently Disney investors / stockholders are having a conference already to kind of lead up to ticket sales for the 2024 film. Firestorm. That's a firestorm in itself, but we are not going to talk about it because that has been covered around the YouTube interwebs and such all over mainstream. So what I feel would be a good topic for this Monday is a simple topic of what are we anticipating as far as films and maybe even TV shows if we want to throw anything in. But a anticipated kind of the best last end of the year recap of what we're really looking forward to in Hollywood. Albeit some things still might get held out by the writer's strike. We have no idea how much that's going to do, but we're going to talk about it today. And Chase, would you like to lead us off with your first film that you're looking forward to here to end 2023?
Of course. So the first film that I am excited for is Killers of the Flower Moon. This is a film by Martin Scorsese, one of my favorite directors, and he teams up with Leonardo DiCaprio again, and it is about the members of the Osage tribe being murdered in the 1920s, being murdered in the 1920s, and the FBI got involved. And I love history pieces, so I love watching films that, you recreate something that happened in the past and you learn something from it. But you also got to be careful because sometimes Hollywood films tend to tell the wrong side of history or tell the wrong parts, and it's not correct and accurate. And so you gotta watch it with, you can't just sit and trust everything that you see. But I do love films that are about history, so I'm really excited about this film. I really love Leo. I love Martin Scorsese and Leo together. I think they do really well together, and it's a film that has been talked about for a couple years now. And since I follow Scorsese pretty closely, I knew this film was coming, and it's based off a book. And I have I have Native American in me. Like, my mother's name means Braveheart, so that's also something. Not that I'm full-blown Indian, but it's something that I'm like, oh, I'm interested to see what they do, because it was something that did happen in the past, and it was a big deal back in the 20s and 30s and whatnot. But no, I am excited for that one, and it comes out in October in theaters. So that's the number one. Sorry, losing my train of thought. That's a film I'm really looking forward to. One of them, at least. Have you heard of that one or looked into it at all?
So, ironically or not, I had just watched the trailer for it a few days ago. But again, it's one of those situations when you look at it in the theater, you're like, and again, not to get too political, but in a social justice era, sometimes they tell stories that benefit the historical aspect in which we are in currently. So when I watched it, I was like, okay, hopefully that this is true to the story, and hopefully this is like actually what happened, because I like going to those historical films and seeing that. I thought Oppenheimer did a really good job with that. But I am looking forward to at least seeing or like hearing your review on that as well, because it is something that I do believe we need more true historical films out there, because that's something that I do like to see as well.
Oh yeah, and I think Scorsese does pretty well. He usually does pretty well with his historical films. So, but I hope it's better than The Irishman, because there were some sound qualities in that movie that were awful. They were just so bad. And so I hope this one does a little bit better with the sound quality, whatnot.
And we can expect it to be 3 hours long as well, right?
At 3.5 hours, this film is.
Oh, he went above and beyond 3.5 hours. Scorsese is still one of those directors, and this could get us off topic real quick, but I would say that there's not too many directors out there that go the typical 3 hour films anymore. And the ones that do, I feel like, are known for it.
Yeah, he's definitely the king of gangster movies. He really is. He does really good with those films. I love that you can put a director in each category when it comes to all this, and you can like, yep, that's his. Like a gangster film, that's Scorsese. Let him have it. Like he knows what he's doing with it. So, it's anything with Leo. I think he directs Leo the best. Even though Leo won an Oscar not in a Scorsese film, he should have. But I think Scorsese and him work so well together. They know each other. They know what helps each other, and Scorsese reads Leo really well on screen. So I think it's going to be another great film for those two.
So my film that we'll jump back and forth to your audience. So one of the films that I'm looking forward to right now is Expendables 4. So and I know it probably has no cinematic appeal whatsoever, as far as like, if you love movies and you want to see like a good, well, we already mentioned the history aspect of it, but if you want to see something that has a good moral plot line and can be like a film that you could dive in and like think about and like really get like drawn into, this is not the film for you. But what it is, it recaps the action stars of old, the true Hollywood stars, which are Stallone. I don't know if Schwarzenegger's in this one or not. Um, but you have Statham, you have a few others that are still in there. And to me, that's something that you can go with your dad. And my dad is already planning on going seeing it with me. So it's just one of those situations where father son moment, go to bond in the theater over it. And it's really, I would say, well, I can't say this because apparently Clint Eastwood is coming out with a final farewell film with juror number, oh, I forget what it's called all of a sudden, but he's coming out with another film which will be his final hurrah as far as his filmmaking directorial career, because he is in his 90s. So it's one of those situations where, yeah, you just want to see that. We don't know how long Stallone and them have now. They're younger than Clint Eastwood, but it's one of those situations where, you know, that was the action stars growing up as far as like in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. And that's just one of the things that a lot of people want to see, and might be the last time we see them all together.
Yeah, Expendables 4 is one of those series that you kind of just go for the action. You're not going for a story. You're not going to see, you know, great film aspects or film quality. You're just going to see how cool the explosions are in the fight scenes because they're so unrealistic. But the first two Expendables I didn't really care for. The third one I liked because it had Mel Gibson in it. But it is fun to sit back and watch a film like that, like the Fast and Furious series, where it's just action and nonsense pretty much. But most of the time I don't steer towards those films. So that's a film I probably won't see in theaters, but I could see why. I mean, those are the movies you kind of want to see in theaters anyway, because of the explosions, car flipping, violence, whatnot. It's on the big screen. So, I might have to check it out. I didn't know they were making another one until probably a week ago, just by doing random research. And I thought, I'm wondering if they're going to continue it all the way up to 10, but we'll see.
Well, they need a younger cast of characters. I know each Expendables movie, they do get like a younger film star and stuff. So I am looking forward to see where they take that franchise. But obviously, once Stallone and all them call it quits, that franchise is probably just gonna disappear. And that's fine because it's made for those film stars of the 90s, the 80s, and the 70s. So Chase, do you have another one on your list that you're looking forward to?
Yes, and I think we both are going to have this film on our list. Dune Part 2 comes out November 3rd. I did not get to see the first one, Part 1, in theaters. I saw it on HBO Max back when HBO Max was a thing, before Max, and I loved it. I thought it was so great. I love this director, and I don't quite remember the director's name, Dennis something. But he is the king of sci-fi. Like, his sci-fi films are so good. He's really good at slow burn films. So he made the film Arrival with Amy Adams, and he made the film Blade Runner 2049 with Ryan Gosling. Yeah, he made Ryan Gosling. Excuse me. So many Ryans. And I love his films because of slow burn. They really savor the moment for the action and whatnot. And he's really good at the cinematography is amazing. In fact, the cinematography won that year for Dune. So, and I don't remember who was the cinematographer for Dune Part 1, but Dune Part 2 just continues the story and actually gets to the bit I was really excited for, is when he was going into the desert. And that's something I've never read the books, and I've only watched the old movie a couple times, but I think it is going to be a really good film to watch. And I do recommend to watch Part 1 and then go to the theater and watch Part 2. That way you know exactly what's going on and you're not kind of thrown in the middle of the story. But yep, Dune Part 2 comes out November 3rd.
And that's one of those you would probably say you'd recommend seeing in the theaters as well, correct? Like, that's almost a theatrical experience, even though you said that you didn't get the chance to. I feel like that's one, and I didn't get the chance to watch it in theaters either. So to me, I feel like that could be one of those films that could be like an Avatar-esque type vibe, where you go and you want to sit down and see all that sci-fi and science fiction just come to life on the big screen.
Yeah, and the sound quality, like, I'm a filmmaker myself, so every aspect of film is pretty important, and sound is 50% of the film. You can have a really good film, and if the sound is bad, it's not a good film. And vice versa. If your film doesn't look that great, but it sounds really good, it's good. It's kind of funny how sound works with that. So I was doing research on the sound mixing for this film and what they had to do to create the worm in the desert. I'm bad at names, but the worm in the desert, how they created his roar and whatnot. And it's so cool to watch that these sound mixers kind of go step by step how they create these sound effects, and you know, they have the Foley and all that. So I think this film's going to sound really good, which is one big thing about the theater. If you sit at the right spot, like I talked about when we went to see Oppenheimer, you sit the right spot and you hear everything that the sound mixer heard. So this is a film I think you want to sit right in the middle, find that good seat, and enjoy.
And sci-fi films to me are probably the most, like, as a filmmaker myself as well, I feel like sci-fi is a genre where I would love to just like go out and create a sci-fi film, because I feel like those give you so much leeway to create and have fun with. But I also feel like you could have fun with horror films, which is why I'm giving a shout out to The Nun 2 coming out here. And I know, yeah, that face says it all. But The Nun 2, I saw the original Nun in theaters. If you are any fans of the franchise, The Nun was a good time. Like I said, it wasn't, somebody like me, and I will admit I'm a big oversized baby. I will like kind of like shut my eyes in the theaters and be like, just peek down a little bit and be like, okay, what's coming? You know, like 7 seconds after the music stops, something's happening. You know that. But I did enjoy the first Nun, so I am looking forward to the second Nun, which, if you didn't get a chance though, and I'm going to do another one here real quick as well. 57 Seconds. Chase, did you see the trailer for 57 Seconds?
I did not. I don't even know about this film.
Okay, so it is, I'm going to completely botch the name because it is the guy who played in the Hunger Games. Oh my gosh. The main
Who
actress
was he?
that played with alongside Katniss Everdeen, the PETA.
Oh, I know what
Josh
you're talking about.
Hutchinson, right? Josh Hutchinson? Is that true? It might be
Josh, yeah, something like that.
something like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, apologies. But he also, so it's him and Morgan Freeman are teaming up for 57 Seconds, in which, so the premise is there's this ring that takes you 57 seconds into the past. So like they developed the technology to time travel, but only 57 seconds. And throughout the trailer, you realize that like, okay, he lost his sister to a drug overdose, and they want to go after the big pharma person that like created or all these drugs and allowed these drugs to come across the border and stuff like that. And it almost seems like they're able to go farther back in time, and then it's how much do you play around with the past, how much do you like get greedy, how much are you doing this out of like respect and love, or are you just doing it for power and consuming? So it seems like an interesting premise, but I'm assuming it's probably going to be like a 1 hour 30-minute film which you can sit there and be excited about. And it kind of gave me like Now You See Me vibes, and a little bit of Looper too, or Jumper, excuse me, not Looper, Jumper.
Well, Looper too. I guess Looper is that kind of way. That was a different film, but I'm looking at it right now. That is very interesting. And it comes out, folks, September 29th. So that comes out next month. That might be an interesting film.
Like I said, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it seems like a nice little watch. Although when I say the nice little watches, so is Strays probably in theater, because I am looking forward to Strays as well. But like I said, 57 Seconds is just one of those situations where it seems like it could be high intensity at moments, probably just a good, and I think it's still family friendly. I didn't see a rated R rating on it, so it's something that
I think it's rated R. I just looked at it. I think it's rated R.
Okay, well, excuse that. It is not family friendly then. We're gonna pretend. But like I said, the premise is cool, and it could be one of those cool little watches at the end of the year that could actually surprise some people.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at the trailer. So the last film that I am excited for, which I'm excited for others, but this is just on my list, is Napoleon, starring Joaquin Phoenix. It's directed by Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott made a ton of films: The Martian, Gladiator, Black Hawk Down, you name it. Ridley Scott did some amazing films throughout his career. Alien, Blade Runner. With Blade Runner is a great film. Anyway, so Napoleon has Joaquin Phoenix playing Napoleon, and it follows his life and how he came to power and whatnot. Now, there's a little bit of details that I'm kind of missing out, but it's just a film about Napoleon, and that's something I haven't really seen in a while. So I'm really excited to see what Scott has planned for this film. It's 2.5 hours, so it's going to be a length, but you know what I noticed? The two films that I'm really excited for are Apple original films. So the Apple company is, because they have their streaming service, so they're coming out with some pretty good films. They're marketing and budgeting some of these good films, and hopefully that kind of helps them grow. this is something I've never seen before. So, and so, but yeah, no, Napoleon, it looks really good. It's colored really well. And I think Joaquin Phoenix, just as he did with the Joker, is going to do an incredible job with this one. And I'm curious to see what they do with this. It's the same thing that we talked about with history. You want to make sure that it's accurate, and you don't want to just believe it based on what you saw in the movie. You want to do your own research. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with this film and how it plays out. But I think the cinematography sounds great. It looks like it's going to be pretty violent. So if you're into violent movies, I think this would be kind of a film for you. But also you might learn something history-wise, learn about Napoleon, maybe a little bit more personal things about him rather than just what he did. So and from what we talked about before, you haven't heard of this film, have you?
I have not, which is interesting because Joaquin's kind of becoming the Daniel Day-Lewis kind of this era. Not gonna lie. I mean, Joaquin's a very, very good dramatic actor.
Yeah, he does an incredible job, and I think he'll do an incredible job for this. But no, I like Ridley Scott films. Like Gladiator is one of my dad's favorite films, but Gladiator is an amazing film, and it had Joaquin Phoenix in it as well. So they teamed back up, and I really like Scott, and him and his brother did movies. Tony Scott, which Tony Scott is not with us anymore, but Ridley Scott keeps going. And you know how Christopher Nolan is kind of the man today when it comes to movies. I think Ridley Scott was that in the early 2000s because he just came out with good films right and left year after year. And then Spielberg was kind of more 90s. But no, I think Ridley Scott definitely had his time shining, and it's good to see that he's kind of coming back and continuing to make good films, because sometimes I feel like you have this a good run and then someone else is better than you and you get kind of behind. But it's kind of good to see those directors kind of come back and make a film again. So yeah, Napoleon comes out November 22nd.
And Ridley Scott too. So as somebody that kind of, even though I've been wanting to do and create films since like the 5th grade, like I kind of knew my vision, but like when you really dive into the film lore and you start learning like directors and artists and all the other stuff that in the cinematographer names, Ridley Scott to me was always, when I think Ridley Scott, I don't think Gladiator, I think science fiction. I think things like Alien. You know what I'm saying? And Prometheus, right? He did Prometheus, I believe so, because they're both on the same franchise. So it's just one of those things. I think that. So I was gonna ask you, when's the last time he did a historical based film? Would that have been Gladiator?
I could do some quick research, but that's funny. I always thought of historical pieces when it came to him, but no, he directed The Last Duel that came out in 2021. Yeah, but after that, I mean, he made House of Gucci that had Adam Driver, and I didn't get to see that movie, but it looked good. Sometimes you watch these films for the director because you kind of like their style and how they film it. So, but yeah, he has done a lot of science fiction. It probably is what he's known for, but he kind of goes science fiction and historical, together.
No, that's fascinating because, like I said, that's not something I picture Ridley Scott as. But like I said, when you've been around for so long, it's never good to stay in one field either. It's always good to expand and do different genres and different creative aspects. I will do 2 quick ones and an honorable mention. Hunger Games, everybody knows, that's watching the channel, I'm excited for. That comes out in November, just like the typical Hunger Games when they did come out in November. So I'm glad they stuck with that release date. Although they probably could have slid into the Christmas slot because really, I don't believe anything coming when I looked into December. So it's fascinating that they hung steady in November. Gran Turismo, though, a lot of honorable mentions going to Gran Turismo because I know a lot of my friends that are personally interested in that. I know I have a buddy Max in Jersey. Shout out to him. He loves watching those style races. So, and the fact is, a lot of people played the video game, know the actual racing map, in which is Gran Turismo. So, like I said, I'm looking forward to it. And the trailers look so cool with how they dive. And what always amazed me, Chase, and this, of course, in the CGI era, but it's always cool to really see their perspective when you're inside the wheel of a car. and do the shots of, the camera pans into the car. And I know it's meshing two shots together and stuff, but it's cool how the camera just flies in to the car and you like just seamlessly get to see different perspectives, and then you slide in and out and do all kinds of shots there. To me, I always appreciate like racing scenes.
Yeah, and in the theater, that's going to be a great movie to watch, anything racing wise, like Ford versus Ferrari. Like those are going to be good films to see in the theaters and, see it on the big screen, especially with sound and whatnot. So yeah, that one is going to be good. I have two honorable mentions as well because I just thought of them. The first one's Wonka. I have to bring that one up. You can't beat the original. I know I haven't seen it yet, but you just can't beat the original. You gotta. And I'm not talking about Johnny Depp. I'm talking about Gene Wilder. That's the original. That's the one I grew up with. But I am curious on what they're going to do with Wonka. I have my worries, but that's just because you're doing a remake and you're recasting someone that, I think Timothy Chalamet is going to do a good job, but that's one I'm going to have to see. I know my fiance wants to see it really bad, but that's just one of the honorable mentions. And then, we haven't mentioned a kid movie yet, which those are popular as well. There's a film called Migration from Illumination that is coming out December 22nd. And it is, they've been doing pretty well. They're like the new Pixar of the 2010s. They just came out with Super Mario Bros., which that movie did really well. In fact, it's the highest grossing animated film of all time, I think. It beat Frozen, it beat all of those. And so, now they're coming out with Migration, which is just about what you think, ducks and migrating, and the cranes are the bad guys. And I think that's just going to be funny. And it looks, if you watch the trailer, it looks really well done and it looks really good. So, yeah, those are my two.
As long as it doesn't have that stamp that says Disney on it, it's going to make money because we all know that. At least how this year's panned out. Maybe that'll change in the future. So, guys, you can comment in the comment section below. What are you guys looking forward to end 2023? Maybe even throw in some 2024 honorable mentions. Chase, thank you for joining me here on Movie Mayhem. Chase, where can people find you at?
Instagram mainly at Chase Morgan Hulett. That's the main spot.
And he also has a podcast called The Golden Review, in which we will dive into here in a little bit because he doesn't plug everything when he decides to end the channel. So I will plug some things. The Golden Review, True Light Pictures. Chase, we're going to have you on for another special episode here coming up. That won't be Movie Mayhem, but it'll be talking about a new film of yours. So he's getting excited for that by the day. Guys, thank you for joining us. This has been another Movie Mayhem. Have a great Monday, everybody.